Previously on Outdoors 55. We need to place this on the flat portion of the flats of the knife to give us a true angle of what we're actually sharpening at. Hi guys, so I just wanted to do a quick clarification video based on the last video that I did. I will link that up here. This video will not make any sense unless you have seen that video. We're talking about knife angles, and a lot of people had reached out to me in the last video and told me that I had made a mistake when measuring the actual knife angle using this angle finder. So I had dozens of comments like these, and it's actually my fault because I didn't do a very good job of clarifying what I was doing in the video. So here's the clarification on how to find the knife blade's true center line using both methods. The method that I used in the previous video and the opposite bevel method like everybody thought I was doing. Now our goal here is to find the knife's exact center line. That'll give us a true representation of what we are actually sharpening our knife at. Now, in the last video I explained how these angle guides are not correct because the spine of the knife for most knives is thicker than the behind the edge thickness. So these angle guides don't give you the correct angle. Again, go watch this video to help you understand all of this. So in the last video, I placed the angle guide on the stone. We then placed our knife bevel. So this is our knife primary bevel. We set that on the angle guide. Next, what I did was I took our angle finder and I placed it on the flat portion of the knife blade. And that gives us the true indication of our knife's exact center line. Now let me give you a quick example here on why this is correct using a block of wood. Now bear with me here, this is not a calibrated piece of equipment, it's just a block of wood off my shelf. What I did is I drew a cross section on this block of wood, and we have a bevel and a bevel. Now, if we look at the knife center line, it is in parallel to both of these faces. Now these faces, these outside flat faces, represent the flat portion of the knife here. So this will give you a good indication on why that's correct. So we have the knife center line, and it is exactly parallel as long as everything is ground close, which most of these knives are ground pretty close. Maybe they're off a 1/10 or 100th of a degree, but that really doesn't matter. But you can see that the center line is exactly parallel to both of the flat faces. And that is why if we set our angle finder on a flat face on the blade, we can get a true representation of what the knife center line actually is. It doesn't matter where we put this. We can put this on the knife like so, or on the stone like so, and our flat face is always going to be in parallel to the knife center line. Doesn't matter how we twist or turn this, those faces are always going to be parallel. Now what a lot of people thought that I was doing was placing the knife on the angle guide. This is what they thought I was doing, taking the angle finder and placing it on the opposite bevel, like this. So you can see it is not on the flat portion, it's on the bevel itself, which is opposite to the other bevel, correct? Now as you can see, this angle is different at 18.5 degrees than our true centerline angle as measured on the flat face of the blade. That is because we now have both bevels compounding the difference between the knife's true centerline. Now you can actually find the knife center line using this technique if your blade does not have a flat surface. We'll take our angle finder and we will place it on the bevel, the opposite bevel of the knife. So there you can see it's placed on the bevel. Set that on the stone, that gives us 18.5 degrees. We're going to be close here within a couple of tenths. So now we have 18.5 degrees on the bevel. Now we need to subtract 14 degrees from 18.5 because that's our angle guide, and that leaves us with 4.5 degrees. 4.5 degrees. Now we need to divide this by 2, which is 2.25 degrees. Now, this is why I didn't do it this way. Now we add 2.25 degrees to our original 14 degrees, which leaves us with 16.25 degrees. So we're very close here to what our flat angle indicated. This is close enough. We're gonna have a little bit of error here in the angle finder, in the angle guide, how the knife sits on the stone between the two bevels, so on and so forth. But that goes to show you that we're not like 6 degrees off here or anything like that. Now here is what we just did on a very roughly drawn diagram. You can pause this and study it, but we're going to talk through it here real quick. Now the angle finder on the bevel gives us 18.5 degrees. Now we have to find the difference between the angle guide angle of 14 degrees and the total angle as measured at 18.5 degrees. This will give us the angle of the sum of the two bevels relative to the center line equaling the total angle of the primary bevel. We do this by subtracting the angle finder angle of 18.5 degrees by the angle guide angle of 14 degrees. This equals 4.5 degrees total angle or inclusive angle of the two bevels. Now, to find the true centerline angle, we simply divide the inclusive angle of 4.5 degrees by 2. This gives us 2.25 degrees. Now we can add that 2.25 degrees back to the angle guide angle of 14 degrees, which compensates for that spine thickness. And that gives us 16.25 degrees. Actual centerline angle, which is pretty much exactly what we measured off of the flat face earlier. Now I can feel people's eyes glazing over as I speak, and this is the reason why I didn't explain it this way in the first video, which is primarily aimed at people who are just starting to sharpen their knives. A much simpler way to do this is to simply place the angle finder on the flat portion of the blade. And you don't have to do any of this. Previously on Outdoors 55, we need to place this on the flat portion. So the question is does any of this actually matter in the grand scheme of freehand knife sharpening? And the answer is no. And I think the takeaway, or I hope the takeaway from that last video, was that as long as you are not over angling the knife into the stone or severely under angling the knife relative to the stone, you're going to get good results. And this was simply a demonstration to show you how you can get in that sort of sweet spot range to get decent results to start with. Now, as you get better with your knife sharpening, you can start to dial in those angles if that's what you're really after. But in the grand scheme of things, this entire way of finding knife bevel angles is completely not necessary for freehand knife sharpening. You just have to get into that sweet spot range, which these angle guides can absolutely help you do if you know what to look for, which is what that last video was on. So go check that video out. Also, a lot of people ask me where I get this angle finder. I'll link it below. I'll also link the guide below and the stone below. But this is absolutely not necessary for knife sharpening. This is for demonstration purposes only. I was sharpening, freehand knife sharpening for a decade before I even got one of these things. So there, it's absolutely not necessary. But since you asked, I will link it below. And anyway, I hope this video helps clear things up. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.